Hey there, happy Friday. You know what time it is. This week's Ask Rachel Anything question is, how and when did I learn to sew? And so I wanted to first answer a little bit of a side question here because I get asked a lot by some startup people or people who are just joining the industry, where can I learn to go sew before I start my brand or before I start a project? And I just want to kind of throw this little maybe a crazy idea out there. I don't actually think that you need to know how to sew to start an apparel brand. Now, there are a lot of advantages in the apparel industry if you do know how to sew, like understanding quality of sewing, quality of seams, quality of thread, quality of workmanship. A lot of that can be gleaned if you also understand how to be your own seamstress or how to sew your own clothes. But I am out here to just kind of debunk that. I don't think you need to learn how to sew before you can start your own brand or before you can start a project. I think you can work with great factories and great sourcing out there to be with professionals who know how to do that for you. And as long as you can just articulate what your idea is in your head, they should be able to handle the sewing part for you. And if you really need someone to be checking quality or understanding how all of that seaming work, how all of the sewing works, you can also then definitely hire experts in that area, which is part of what we do here at Unmarked Street. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Just because I'm in the fashion industry and just because I've started an apparel brand doesn't necessarily mean that I needed to learn how to sew. However, I will say that I learned how to sew when I was 7 years old. My mom taught me how to sew on her old Singer sewing machine, which I actually still have here in my office with me. It is an amazing piece of equipment. It has lasted for a really long time. It has all of the great little metal parts in it. It's not one of the plastic ones that's been out a little bit longer. When I was in fashion school, I really started to learn how to use industrial machines, and so that was a level up. But I've been sewing my own clothes for a long time. When I was in high school, it was kind of a deal I wanted this amazing prom dress. And so my mom actually made a deal with me that if I sewed a lot of my own other dance dresses or homecoming dresses that we did throughout the year, she would help me afford this amazing prom dress that I really wanted. So I did a lot of sewing in that way. I had some of these big ball gown type dresses that I was making all the time. And so I learned to sew that way. I also do a lot of kind of stitch work stuff. I used to cross stitch a lot and do needlepoint a lot when I was a kid. I learned how to knit at one time, knitting needles style, but I didn't get really good at it. And then I kind of put it down, and I think I've probably forgotten how to do it at this point. I also never learned how to crochet or embroider or anything like that. I did learn how to do some beading though when I was in high school. And I've also done some different silk screening and special stuff like that. So crafting was always big for me, and sewing was always just a big part of that. And then it really did just kind of lead to my love of apparel and making clothes and what all of that meant for me as I went into fashion design school. So that is how I learned how to sew, and I have taken that with me. But again, if you don't know how to sew and you're interested in getting into the apparel industry or the fashion industry, I don't personally think it's a deal breaker. I think there are those of us out here who can help you with everything that you need. And so if you're not interested in learning how to sew, but you do have an idea on your heart and you want to bring it to life with a brand, I say go for it. Let's just do it. So if you need help in any way, you can definitely contact me at unmarkedstreet.com. I'd love to chat with you. And if you guys have questions for me for next week's Ask Rachel Anything, please be sure to put DMs in my DM area, or you can put comments below and I'll be sure to get to you next. Talk soon. Have a great weekend.